Zaxby's Caribbean Jerk Chicken is just like a vacation in the tropics. Only without the sunburn. Or the dive-bombing seagulls. Or all of that pesky sand.
How'd it get in there?
Well, at least it tastes like the tropics. Enjoy our famous chicken tossed in a tropical blend of spicy habanero, fruity mango, and exotic island spices. The Caribbean Jerk boneless wings and the new filet sandwich meal. 2 more reasons you'll get a kick out of Zaxby's.
From Tally to Cali,
it's time
to wake up.
Wake up, wake up, wake up. WarChant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up War Chant, presented by Zaxby's.
Now here's WarChant.com's Aslan Hajavandi
and Corey Clark.
Wake up! What's up, everybody? It's Wake Up War Chants, presented by Zaxby's. Indescribably good. We work for WarChant.com, we being Corey Clark, that's the other guy, and myself, Aslan. And not the other guy as in lesser guy, just the guy that's not speaking at this moment. Use the promo code WarChant30 for 30 free days of access to WarChant.com. Corey Clark, you've had a long weekend. Clemson and back by wagon, because that's how you roll. How you doing, man? How was your weekend?
It was good, buddy. It was good. I had a good time. The Clemson game was, it was entertaining. I had an awesome seat. Chuck Walsh hooked me up, so that was awesome. I know the end wasn't great for the folks watching or listening to this, but yeah, overall it was a good weekend, man. Got to go to the Georgia Tech game was at Coolray Field, which is where the Gwinnett Stripers play, the Atlanta Braves AAA team. And my buddy has an apartment right beyond the right field fence.
Oh,
so I got to go watch that on Sunday.
Very nice.
And it was my sister's birthday. It was a big weekend all around.
Nice. And the last weekend without spring football. It starts this weekend.
It sure does. I can't wait. Little 8 a.m. wake-up call? Or no, I guess it'll be like a 7 a.m. wake-up call. Yeah. So, looking forward to that, Mike. Thanks, buddy.
Speaking of which, we'll have a interview with a coach at the end of the show. I'm thinking we'll probably run the David Johnson one. Maybe it'll be Chris Marve. I don't know. We have sit-down interviews with the entire staff. The new guys. We didn't do one with Dugans and Odell. We still love both of them. It's just, we've spoken to them numerous times. So do stay tuned for that. Let's start off with the basketball game, Corey. I was here in Tallahassee, so I went to the baseball games. We'll talk a little about that. Also, NFL Combine, Cam Akers, Stanford Samuels III, both performed in Indianapolis. But the basketball game could have been worse because Virginia helped everything out with a win over Duke. I had the game on before I went to Hauser, and I was kind of looking up a few times. I kept seeing your tweets about the dubious officiating. I don't like talking about officiating all that much, but it seems to be what everybody's talking about. So if you want to set the scene here of just how bad it was, or in hindsight, was it overblown? How did it work out?
Man, I think Leonard's right. I don't think he said afterwards that the referees didn't cost them the game. They didn't. Now, because that's just part of the sport. And afterwards, Leonard's like, look, that is part of the human element of this sport. It's what makes it unique and special, and yada 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 on that. Now, maybe that's what he says publicly, and what he says privately is different. I didn't think it was a well officiated game necessarily, but I mean that's what happens. Florida State had a 10-point lead after the first possession of the second half, and then didn't hit another field goal for 8 minutes. I mean, that's how you lose games, man. And you gave up 18 layups or dunks. Now, some of those are contested, but you let Clemson, who isn't very good at getting to the rim, get to the rim at will, including on the last shot. So no, Florida State, in my opinion, deserved that loss. But man, there were 5 charges on Florida State. 2 of them took away and ones, although Malik Osborne had 1 of them, and he was probably going to miss the free throw, so an and none. But still, that's 5 points that was taken away from Florida State at least. And also, we always look at the last 30 seconds or a minute of a game. Well, there's so many other plays that go in. I mean, there's 70, 80, I don't know, what are there, 200 plays in a basketball game? That Trent Forrest, Florida State had a lead, was playing well in the first half. Trent Forrest goes for it just looked like a straight up and one. The kid slid up underneath him, outside the circle, or maybe it was a little outside the circle, but Trent was going up. The kid slid up underneath him. He makes the layup. It's called an offensive foul. Not only does it take 2 points away, it puts Trent on the bench for the next 9 minutes. Because Leonard's never going to play a guy with 2 fouls in a regular season game because that's his deal. So you lose Trent for 8 minutes. It's little things like that where you can say, man, if you get a better whistle, you probably win that game. But you still had plenty of opportunities to win the game. But all that said, you can't have what happened in the last 20 seconds of that game happen. Like, it's just such an utter F up by the officials. So for the people that didn't watch it, or even if you did, Clemson goes to the line up 1 with, I think, 22 seconds left. Kid misses the first free throw, then misses the second free throw. So Florida State's down 1. They can't quite secure the rebound, which is an issue, but they don't get the rebound. Clemson does get it, but he gets it as he's kind of fumbling and falling out of bounds. He almost, when he goes to retrieve the ball, his foot almost steps out of bounds, but it does not. He gets the ball and just tosses it towards half court. Trent Forrest does what Trent Forrest does, deflects it, and is about to go in for a go-ahead dunk with, I would guess, there would have been 14 seconds left on the clock when the ball went through the basket after the dunk. But they blow the whistle. As Trent is tipping it down court, they blow the whistle. And then after a 6-minute delay, I'm guesstimating there, but it sure seemed like that much. After about a 5 or 6 minute delay, they say inadvertent whistle. It is Florida State ball. I assume they just went to the jump ball, like they called it a jump ball.
Yeah, they did.
And Florida State had possession. So that's why Florida State got the ball. Imagine if Florida State didn't have possession. Yeah. And Clemson would have been able to hold on to the ball after that nonsense. Not only do you take a go-ahead dunk away, but you give it back to the team that created the turnover. Anyway, so it's not a huge deal, right? Like, Florida State goes down and scores anyway. Trent goes down and does what he does. Hits a little floater in the lane to give you the lead. He's hit 1 million of those in his life in his career at Florida State. But it does change the complexion of the game. So say Florida State scores on that dunk with 14 seconds left. Well, Clemson's probably going to call a timeout. I think Brownell's going to want to rattle, get his team together, calm them down, say, look, we won possession, call the best play, because they would have been definitely rattled after the kid misses. Not only does he miss 2 free throws, but you give Florida State a dunk on the other end. So I think he calls timeout there. But the way it went, the way the game played out, with 6 minutes of downtime in between the referee's inadvertent whistle in that final stretch, the coaches had chances to go over every single scenario that could happen over the next 15 seconds. And in fact, the Clemson kid that made the game winner, and I can't remember his name, which is crazy because he had 18 points.
Dawes. Alamir
Dawes. Who's a quick little guy. He said that when they were talking in the huddle during the crazy delay, he's like, look, if they make this basket, get the ball and go. I'm not calling timeout. Well, Brad Brownell had not told his team that during those free throws. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
So on that dunk with 14 seconds left, they probably call timeout. And now Florida State has a chance to set up its defense. That's all well and good, and I get it. And I think Florida State, it's a tough whistle there in that moment, but Florida State hadn't stopped dribble penetration all game. So there's certainly no guarantee that they get a stop, even if they have more time to set up their defense. No. So that's why I don't want to say the refs caused Florida State the game. They didn't. Don't go 8 minutes without hitting a bucket, without scoring a field goal. Don't quit missing free throws that matter. Get a stop when you need to stop. They didn't get any stops down the stretch.
Yeah,
all that's why they lost the game. Yeah. But it would have. I do think it would have played out differently. That doesn't mean I don't think Clemson would have scored. But even if the exact same thing happens and Dawes goes in for a layup after a timeout, well, now Florida State still has 7 or 8 seconds left to maybe get a shot of their own besides a 70-footer. But that's basketball, man. Florida State's won so many of those games that come down to the last couple of possessions that it was almost like it has to happen eventually where you lose 1 or 2 of those games. That's basketball. You play enough close games, you're going to lose a few.
All that said, with that loss, the dream of a potential ACC regular championship seemed dashed. But again, Virginia stepped up, took down Duke. Now we're looking at potential 4-team tie, which case would go to everyone's head-to-head record amongst those tied teams. And I think Florida State's actually positioned quite well.
What happens? If Florida State wins on Wednesday against Notre Dame and then they win Saturday against Boston College, they win. They're the champion. They're unquestioned. They're champion. because they would have the same number of losses as well. At worst, they're tied with Louisville at 16-4 in the league, but they hold the head-to-head over Louisville.
Okay.
So they're in it. If they win the next 2 games, they're out. They're the number 1 seed in the ACC tournament. If they lose Wednesday at Notre Dame, so then what they would need to do is obviously beat Boston College on Saturday, and then hope Virginia beats Louisville on Saturday. And it's at Virginia. So that's certainly not out of the realm of possibility. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, so, Florida State, if they beat Notre Dame on Wednesday, you certainly you got to like their chances to beat Boston College at home on Trent Forrest Senior Day, especially with an ACC championship on the line, regular season championship. So, obviously Wednesday night is a huge game for Florida State. It was great that Virginia, well, not really. It was weird. I was really, really conflicted about cheering for Virginia just because I just can't. So it was great for Florida State that Virginia did that, but man, it just also makes you think, golly, just get one more stop against Clemson and you win that game. And then you'd basically just need to win one of these next 2 games to be alone to win it by yourself. So that's a bit of a bummer that they were that close to wrapping it up. But then
nothing good comes easy. Nothing good comes easy, Corey.
Sure, but think about the season. Like, they have to have a frantic comeback to beat Miami at Miami. They have to hit some amazing shots to beat Syracuse at home. They beat Notre Dame by surviving 4 shots for Notre Dame in the final 30 seconds with the crazy turnovers on the inbounds passes. And on and on and on. Like, they've had a number of games that could have gone either way that they found a way to win. So, you could. They're really close to being. They're really close, honestly, to being 19-0 or 18-0 in the ACC. They're very close, but they're also close to being like 12-6. So that's basketball. Either way, they win on Wednesday night at Notre Dame, which is not going to be. They don't match up great with Notre Dame anyway. Notre Dame seems to always play well against them offensively, and Notre Dame still feels like they're playing for something that they could backdoor their way into the NCAA tournament. So if you can win that game on a Wednesday night at 9:00, then yeah, you're going to probably win the ACC regular season title. And even if you lose the game, you've got, I would say, I would guess a 55% chance of being the number 1 seed and winning the title anyway, as long as you win on Saturday against Boston College. They've put themselves in a very good position. It was just a bummer of a loss because it looked like Trent Forrest was going to be the hero again.
And with all that said, Bracketology from both ESPN and CBS has Florida State as a 2 seed. Let's hope the ESPN model, the Euro model, if you will, is going to be the correct one because it has Florida State as a 2 seed in the South region, which would be Houston in
nice.
the end of things. So they would be in Tampa. They're 2 seed against Arkansas, Little Rock. They would get the winner of Marquette, East Tennessee State, and then a potential Sweet 16 matchup against Villanova if it goes chalk, potentially Arizona. Rhode Island's also in there. On the CBS half, they have them as a 2 seed in the West. So it would be Los Angeles against the Zags. And I don't like the ESPN the CBS rather, Jerry Palm projection. Seems a little more stiff. They'd be a 2 seed against 15 Belmont, but then it could potentially meet up with national runner-up Texas Tech in the second round, and then likely Kentucky in the Sweet 16. So
yikes!
Let's go with
Kentucky looks to me like the best team in the country.
Yeah, they're peaking.
So avoid them as long as possible.
Yeah, so let's hope old Joe comes through. But both of them have Florida State in Tampa, so that'll be super cool. And to Corey's point in a previous program, get on out there, support the Noles.
I would say, wouldn't you say? I mean, it seems like it's almost automatic at this point that, and I don't want to jinx it or say something that's not 100% true. But it's almost automatic that Florida State can't finish lower than a 4 seed for NCAA tournament purposes, even if they lose at home to Boston College. So, and they lose in the first round of the NCAA tournament. There's nothing that feels like they're going to go on a 4-game losing streak to end this season. So they're almost certainly 99.9%, let's say 95%, going to be in Tampa.
Yeah.
What you don't have to wait until Selection Sunday to buy tickets to Tampa. So seriously, if you listen to this anywhere in the state, get tickets. Tampa's a cool place. There's nice establishments to go visit. You got Dale Mabry Boulevard. Holy, you kidding me with that? It's wonderful this time of year. There's a lot of Tampa's got it's got the whatever steakhouse Burns.
Yeah, correct.
Hey, how about we go there on Wednesday night before the game? Aslan, you down for that?
I've never been. Lived my whole life practically 20 miles from that place. Never been.
Well, we're going. We're going to make it a point. You and I are going.
All right. Let's go to the dessert room as well. That's where all the magic happens.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. The only thing I remember about that meal, and I was younger, I was like 15 or 16, is I feel like we went out of the restaurant to another place for our dessert.
Yeah.
So that's something to look forward to too, man.
Indeed.
Get your tickets, everyone.
Yeah, and you can cancel your hotel 48 hours before. So if they for some reason don't end up there, you'll be fine on that end, and that's what's going to really cost you. We should probably segue to baseball, then the combine, because then we're going to end with a football coach's interview. But I think more people probably have interest in us talking about anything involving a football, even though it really doesn't involve a football. It just involves football players. The NFL scouting combine in Indianapolis, only 2 Florida State players got the invite: Cam Akers, running back, and defensive back. Cornerback to some, Stanford Samuels III, according to Deion Sanders, after his run in the 40. Stanford Samuels will be a safety. Did you get to watch Stanford Samuels III run his 40-yard dash, Corey?
I did not. Okay. Is he still doing it?
Nah, it's not that bad. Although I'm going to probably go ahead and slip in the actual audio from Deion right now.
He's a Florida State corner, prime Stanford Samuels III.
Let's pray for this 40 right here. Come on, baby.
I got a pretty decent grade on him, so I'm on my knees right now.
I know what you're going to say. I'm about praying for him right now. Don't say it.
Yeah, there's no twitch.
No.
4.66.
Yeah, he's going to go to safety with that.
Yeah, he's got ball production.
He's going to go to safety with a 4.66. You're not putting a 4.66 on the island.
Well, they play him in the boundary.
He ran a 4.66 unofficial and then a 4.71. I think it went down to 4.65 on the official. So that was his fastest time. It was just, people heard it, just played it there. Just Deion it was funny. Just Deion was like crushed for the kid. He's like, don't tell me. Like as soon as he goes through, he's like, don't tell me the time, guys. And they're like, oh yeah, no twitch. But I mean, I just don't know really. I don't think that was ever part of his game. It's a crazy thing, though, that a kid that's like a 5-star, you would think like that's like the layup thing, and he would do well in combines and speed, and that's why they gave him a 5-star coming out of high school, but apparently that wasn't part of the evaluation process with him. Evaluation process, Isaiah Simmons, the kid from Clemson, I didn't realize he was a 3-star, and he just about made everybody fall in love with the way he performed out there, but we're not Wake Up Tigers, we're Wake Up War Chant. I mean, I saw Stanford Samuels III go through some of the drills. I mean, nothing looked out of the ordinary in terms of being fascinating, so I really don't know where his draft stock's going to be. Fix it at Pro Day and you'll be all right. Try to get somewhere into the 4.5s. I don't know how likely it is that you're going to shave off a full tenth of a second, but, I mean, if he runs a 4.5, I'm sure he'll be able to get there into the later rounds. On the flip side, though, Cam, it sounds like I think he most likely, not most likely, I think he certainly upped his draft stock. I think Bucky Brooks from NFL.com has him as the number 4 running back, slotted in front of Jonathan Taylor from Wisconsin. I think his name's Jonathan Taylor. But he ran a 4.47. He ran faster than Dalvin Cook, which is shocking to many people. I think he got 20 reps on the bench. So Cam did his part. It was good to see him perform well. Obviously, I'm sure he'll do something at Pro Day too. Actually, if I was him, I wouldn't even do Pro Day. I feel like not speaking to him or his father, I feel like he probably wanted to go, if he could run sub 4.5, he would have been ecstatic. To go 4.47, I think was probably a huge win for him. Obviously showed his strength in the bench press. I think he did pretty well in his vertical jump as well, so I don't even know really what he would want to accomplish with doing a Pro Day workout, but I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he does some stuff, but I also, I'd be like, hey man, you want to shut it down? I wouldn't have any problem. So that was a good thing. 1 out of 2 is not bad. 50%. We'll take it.
I get the need for the combine. I get the need for for wanting to time these guys and see how they run in spandex and tank tops. But you can't watch, and this is going to sound like a slight on Cam, and it's not. But what are we to do with these combine times when the combine tries to tell me that Cam Akers is faster than Dalvin Cook?
You have to go this way. Why you gotta go to negative town? Why you gotta go to negative town on my
negative,
guy?
I just so I guess my point, you can play faster, and I'm not saying Cam plays slow. Obviously Dalvin just plays much like LaMarcus Joyner, I think only ran like a 4.51. I mean, you can't tell me that Cam Akers on a football field with pads on. I don't even want to use Cam Akers because I like the kid, and I think he's going to be a good NFL player, and he was a great college back for Florida State. Some of these guys are faster on a football field than LaMarcus Joyner.
Right.
So some of it translates, some of it doesn't. But, I watched Dalvin Cook for 3 years. I watched Cam Akers for 3 years. We all did. None of us think that Cam Akers is faster than Dalvin Cook. So what happened? Was Dalvin just kind of hopscotching? Did he run it backwards? Like how does Cam, or all, there's probably 20 guys that ran faster than Dalvin at that combine. When you watch Dalvin on a football field, are there 7 or 8 guys on the field that are faster than him?
No.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. We're also, picking nits here. I think it was hundredths of a second difference. I think Dalvin ran a 4.49. So it wasn't like Dalvin ran like a 4.62 and then, Cam's out here running 4.3 or something. But I get it, to your point. I mean, it's, I agree. I mean, I tweeted something about it too. Just it's crazy to see these guys in track cleats and then taking like a minute to squat down, shuffle their feet, get the proper distance between their front foot and the line, and then slowly raise their back arm to build some momentum for their start. It's like, hey, man, just put them all in pads, have them just like start with like their hands on their knees or something and just be like, go, and then clock them. It seems like that'd probably be a much more sort of, relevant, contextual comparison to what they're going to do in a football game. But for him, it's good, man. That's really good. That probably, hopefully sneaks him into like a second round sort of slot or whatever.
Oh yeah, I think so. And I do think it's awesome for him because I think when you watch him, the one question you always had was speed, like top level speed. Is he going to be fast enough to play at that level? And obviously, I get you look at a number like that. And you're like, okay, it's in there. Like, and he's also been training for 2 months for it, right? 2 or 3 months for it. So, yeah, I would assume that's awesome. Like, I would assume these NFL teams are like, okay, well, if he's devoting full time to football, to his livelihood, we're getting this kind of back. I don't know that he's like the home run guy that Dalvin was, but that's awesome. I love that he made himself some money because I do think he did. Yeah. Because, again, I think that's the one – he's strong as an ox. He's tough. He has vision. He has wiggle. He breaks tackles. He can catch the ball in the backfield. And he can throw. He'd have a lot of question marks. I think the one question mark that you and I and probably a lot of people listening to this have was, okay, is he just simply fast enough? Is he a guy that's going to turn a 7-yard run into a 47-yard run? Or is it going to be like when he busts free? Is it going to be a 22-yarder or a 50-yarder?
Right.
I think now, hopefully, the NFL thinks, okay, I guess this guy's going to be a 50-yarder guy, which is cool, man. Again, I know it sounded like I was taking a shot at Cam. I didn't mean to. Yeah. I wasn't. I like the kid a lot. It's just when I saw that time, I'm like, man, that's craziness. Yeah. There's just no way. And again, I remember doing it with LaMarcus because LaMarcus is one of the faster dudes I've ever seen on a football field, and I'm talking about from Taj Boyd thinking, oh, here comes number 20. I got plenty of time. Right. To, oh God, where's the ball? in a flash. Yeah. And that's how LaMarcus always was on the football field to me, whether he's playing safety or corner. So when he ran a 4.51, I'm like, okay, well, these things don't mean everything. They're not the end all be all of how fast someone is. Right. Because there weren't, in my opinion, there weren't 15 players in college football faster than LaMarcus Joyner. There's that play, and folks, go YouTube it if you haven't seen it. I've talked about it on here plenty of times, but that play against Idaho where he's the one that pressures the quarterback. He makes him throw off a dump pass or whatever, and then he makes the tackle 80 yards down, 70 yards downfield after falling around midfield. That's how fast LaMarcus Joyner is. So, anyway, good for Cam, Stanford, man. I think what the 40 times can do, like with the LaMarcus, I think when you watch film of LaMarcus, you're like, okay, we don't have to worry about his speed. We know it. We got it. Whether he runs a 4.51 or not, that as long as he doesn't run a 4.9, if he's somewhere in the 4.5s, low 4.5s, we know what we're getting. With Stanford, man, couple that time with his film, and that hurts. That really does hurt. Doesn't mean he can't play at that level. I don't know what Richard Sherman runs. None of these guys ever get timed in the 40 again. So I don't know what Richard Sherman runs now, or what like Desmond Trufant runs now. It's probably not a 4.7, but it could be. But it just it obviously makes the job of playing cornerback harder if you're running in the 4.7s or high mid 4.6s, and you're covering guys that run 4.4. You're covering Julio Jones. That's rough.
Yeah. Well, to Deion's point, safety. I mean, it's not. So there's no shame in playing safety. And again, he's got the pro day to another opportunity to run a better time. And for a lot of scouts, it's crazy enough they can freeze their rear end off in Indianapolis to watch a combine, and then they'll go to a kid's college. And if he runs a better time there or puts more reps on the bench, it's like they'll take that. So by no means is the kid buried at this point. But yeah, it was. I guess it was kind of like, it just reaffirmed your fears. It was crazy because Daniel Jeremiah's talking about he's got great ball skill and he's got ball production. It's like, well, you're gonna have some pass breakups. You're gonna have a pick or two when you've started, probably close to 30 games in your career. But all the other stuff that you want just didn't seem to be there on tape. But again, hopefully it'll work out. And
he's rangy, though. He's rangy, and he did make plays. It wasn't like he was just getting burnt every game. And a lot of that had something to do with the pass rush too. He did give up some touchdowns. They all did. It's a team effort. Everybody on that defense is giving up plenty of touchdowns. So he's got some things you like. Like, he is rangy. He is long. He can move a little bit. We thought. I still think that. But yeah, it was not a great time. It was certainly not a great time for him. And yeah, going back to the pro day real quick. So yes, he definitely needs to post a better time. But so he's got another chance. With Cam, yeah, he's not going to run the 40 again. There'd be no reason to. Yeah. But he'll still work out at pro day.
Yeah, he'll catch some balls out of the backfield and do some cone stuff.
Positional drills. And also, it gives you a chance to talk to the teams.
Yeah,
all that. So he'll definitely work out at pro day. He's just not going to be. I wouldn't think he's going to be doing any more of the actual drill, like the physical testing.
Yeah,
he'll do like positional drills and stuff, but maybe not the physical testing.
Yeah, I don't even know when that is going to. I wonder if DeAndre Francois will be in town for that. That'll be something to keep an eye on. Yeah, pro day. We don't know when that's going to be, but we know spring ball is going to be starting on the 7th, which is a Saturday. It's going to be nice, bright and early. We'll hear from an assistant coach here in a minute. Just wanted to share some thoughts from Hauser. Florida State now 8-3 on the season. They split, I guess you can call it. They beat FAU 5-1 and 16-6, and they lost to Texas A&M, Texas Tech. Always got Jimbo on my mind. You know how that goes. Lost to Texas Tech in extras on Saturday night, I think 5-4, and then lost 4-3 on Sunday. Dude, love talking to Meat. Meat is Jimbo reincarnate, so it's like I never had the opportunity to interview Jimbo, so it's like Ghost. Like, he's the medium through which I get to talk to Demi Moore from the afterlife, or like Whoopi Goldberg or whatever. So it's like it's cool. Like, it's like, we're not playing against anybody. We're playing against the game, and it's all about doing it until you can't do it wrong. And I'm like, oh man. Keep talking to me, Mike Jr. Keep talking to me. On a serious note, though, his son is really good. And I don't mean to call him his son like in a derogatory way. I think it's awesome that this like third-generation Martin producing for Florida State. Tyler Martin, I mean, again, it's small sample size, but the kid hung tough against Texas Tech. I think he had a double on Saturday night. It was 3 for 5. Had a base hit on Sunday, gave one a good ride, and the shortstop climbed the ladder and snagged the line drive away from him. But that kid's good. He played third base on Sunday, which is a big help because, woof, man, that infield, everywhere on that infield is like no one's safe, I think, from the wrath of Mike Martin Jr. on that infield. They don't have a first baseman. Maybe Tyler Martin will be the third baseman. Nander DeSatis played a little bit better on Sunday at shortstop, but him and Jackson Green have been flip-flopping in the middle infield positions, and no one's really kind of established themselves and taken things, the bull by the horns, if you will. And they don't have a first baseman. Like Cooper Swanson is not built like a first baseman. Carter Smith really isn't either. I know that sounds maybe like a lazy sort of analysis, but you see Texas Tech's first baseman picking everything, doing a half split. I mean, everything is clean, and then you see kind of what Florida State's dealing with at that spot. So that's a bit of a concern. Elijah Cabell had a 3-run home run opposite field, which you've talked about, Corey, just kind of the power he has. And, Mike Martin Jr. is not a big silver lining guy, but he did say on Sunday just about, he wants to see Elijah with 200 at-bats under his belt because he feels like at that point he'll show everybody just how much of a, in his words, how much of a superstar he can be. So, otherwise, I mean, Texas Tech's really good. They're like consensus top 5 team. All their guys throw mid to high 90s. It's ridiculous. And they lost both games. They had the lead in both of those games, like going to the 7th inning, I feel like. So no shame in losing to that team. I feel good about it, man. I think the pitching staff is pretty good, and that lineup is going to be real good come June. The defense, though, does give me much concern.
Well, I agree with you on the pitching. I don't think I agree with you on the lineup. And the fielding is an embarrassment. And I don't. So I looked. So they have 26. They played what? They're 8-3. So they have 11. They played 11 games.
Yeah.
They have 26 errors in 11 games. Yeah. They had 9 this weekend, I think, and 4, which actually for them is less than their average.
Progress.
But they had 7 on Saturday.
Yeah.
In the 2 games on Saturday, and it's like, man, in Meat's been talking about it since day one. It's not like it's something he doesn't address or is concerned with, but. I looked it up just out of curiosity. So Florida has played the same number of games. They have 8 errors. Florida State has 26. What? I don't understand it, man. There was a stretch like, about 10 or 12 years ago where Florida State and Florida were both good at basketball, but they won differently. And Florida State always was one of the leaders in the country in turnovers. Even when they were good, they'd average 18 turnovers a game. And it was like, what are y'all teaching in practice that has guys throwing balls out of bounds? And by the way, that was another thing, 16 turnovers against Clemson. Come on, man. If that number is just 11, you win by double digits. They weren't just turnovers. They were turnovers that led to points on the other end. They were just they hit 10 of their first 11 shots from the floor and lost the game. Anyway, but yeah, so I was like, is that just something inherent with the Florida State basketball program that you turn the ball over? Is that just you don't care about it enough, or you're not recruiting types of players that hold on to the ball? And now I'm starting to, and it wasn't. I mean, they don't turn the ball over as nearly as much as they did back then. But now I'm starting to think that about Florida State baseball. Like, are you just recruiting the wrong kids? Like, what does Florida do that they only have 8 errors in 11 games? Georgia, I just looked them up. Georgia's played 12 games. They have 12 errors. So they make an error a game, which isn't great, but it's pretty darn good. Florida State makes 26 and 11. You got to think they're recruiting from the same pool, right?
Yeah.
Florida State, Florida, and Georgia. Mm-hmm. So what is it? I don't. It really boggles the mind. I don't understand it. Got me so mad I got a cough. So, but the reason is because they have an Omaha pitching staff. I think they have a College World Series pitching staff. Their offense is going to be. It's going to be not a mess. It's going to be hit and miss. If they face a guy that's dialed in, that's throwing strikes, they're going to have a tough time.
Well, most teams would, though. I know. I like Tyler. I think Tyler Martin's good. Matthew Nelson's showing some pop. Elijah Cabell's coming along. Robbie Martin's the best pure hitter they probably have. And Reese Albert, I think, is struggling with the offseason shoulder surgery. I think once he gets kind of on the mend, that gives you five pretty good bats. And then DeSatis is bound to find some sort of groove eventually. There's not a lot of dead weight in this lineup. But I always feel like there's that one guy that's like an auto out. Doesn't seem like it right now. And again, it's a small sample size. I just feel like they'll get better.
I don't think they're going to be. I don't think they're awful. I think they're going to be. They're not going to be great for a Florida State offense, and I think mainly because they just don't have a ton of power.
They do not. Yeah, you're right on
Robbie
that.
Martin and Tyler Martin are probably, like you said, are probably their two best hitters, at least right now. We'll see with Tyler. But what he does is he gets on base.
He does.
Like he's just got a great eye. He walks. That's not a surprise. He's a Martin. I think in the crib, Meat read Moneyball to him, so he knows what it means to get on base and not give away outs.
That's right.
So he's better than we all thought. Like he's only struck out 3 times in like 48 plate appearances. That's great. That's incredible, especially for a true freshman. So you like what you have there, and he's always going to put the ball in play, you would think, for the most part. And he hits line drives, good hitter. And Robbie Martin's a good hitter. Reese Albert has proven he's a good hitter. Cabell strikes out a ton. If he can get to 200 at bats without having to go to the hospital because he gets hit twice a game, it's
13
crazy.
13 times now. He was hit 13 times in 58 games last season. He's been hit 13 and 11. So
he's on pace to get hit like 70 times. I mean, he's going to break all types of records. Yeah. So hopefully one of them doesn't hit him in the hand.
Yes.
But, you got to start trying to get out of the way a little. I mean, at least I think he wears them pretty well. Mm-hmm. I saw the one on Saturday night where it looked like he almost got him in the hand or wrist, and you're like, man, you can't let that. That dude's throwing 94. You can't let that hit you in the wrist. But so anyway, I think the pitching's really good. I think they got to figure out maybe the back end of the bullpen. But I like the lefty that pitched on Saturday night, the freshman.
Oh no, sorry. Oh gosh.
Messick? Parker
yes.
Messick?
No. Yeah, Parker Messick, the hefty lefty they call him.
Yeah, I like him a lot.
Yeah. From Plant City, represent.
But your ceiling is only so high if you're going to commit 2.5 errors a game.
Absolutely.
I mean, you can't do it. They've given up. I think they've given up 13 unearned runs this season already, in 11 games. Yeah. So every game, the other team starts with at least 1 run that they did not earn because of your shoddy defense. I think Tyler Martin should help if he can get back in the lineup and actually play in the infield with his arm. If his shoulder's healthy,
which he did on Sunday, he started third. So
yeah, I think he had 4 chances, handling them all. Mm-hmm. So good for him. But hey, somebody has 1,000 fielding percentage. But man, you got Carter Smith with 6, Jackson Green with 5, and DeSatis with 7 errors already. Man, it's gross. And I don't know, like, can they just not field? Are they recruiting kids that don't know how to field? Does it not matter to me if these kids can field, if they can pick it? I can't believe that's true. And I know they practice it. So, like, do you get to the point where, like, anytime you even bobble a ball in practice, you have to go run foul pole to foul pole? Like something like they do with Brady's team?
Getting close.
Because that's what they were doing at practice today with Brady's team. If a ball got by you on a ground ball, you had to go run to the center field fence and back. Whatever. But it boggles the mind that 2 teams that are very similar in prestige, Florida State has a better history than Florida, similar facilities, just don't have that national championship. I get it, folks. Why they have an infield, and they've had an infield for a decade that never makes errors. This year they've made 8 total. Mm-hmm. Florida State's made 26. So in that regard, man, being 8-3, I thought they played well this weekend.
They did.
They could have won off. They beat Florida Atlantic. They beat the brakes off them in the second game. Mm-hmm. And then they really the kid just hits on Saturday night, he hits a game-tying home run on a up-and-out fastball. It was just a good piece of hitting by a kid that threw really well, I thought. Yeah. I thought Messick threw really well. The kid just got one up over the screen, and then you couldn't hit their 2, early round draft pick relievers. That, by all means, Texas Tech, throw your best relievers 70 pitches in a game in February, and your other one 50. Good luck, man. Hope that works out for you. But either way, you almost beat them on Saturday night, and then you got 2 hits on Sunday and you still almost beat them on Sunday. Yeah. So I think there's more positive than negative. So I don't mean to harp on the fielding, but holy moly, man, that's so important. It's what Meat's been stressing ever since the preseason. It's what he's been stressing since he's been a baseball coach. And yet, again, 26 errors in 11 games. Yeah. Figure that out. And stop striking out so much if it's at all possible.
To your point, before the game started this weekend, Florida State was 285th in the nation in fielding percentage out of 300 teams. So,
what was their fielding percentage then?
93.5.
Okay, I'm going to look it up here in a second. Hold on.
Oklahoma was leading the country at 99.4.
All right, so they went up. Oh, what did you say they were 9.35?
Yeah, this was before the 4 games they played, though.
Right. So now they're they went up a tick. They're 9.37.
There we go.
Meanwhile, their opponents are fielding 97%. They're 970. Yeah. Their opponents have made 11 errors.
Yeah, it's a real thing, man. It's a real problem.
It is, and it's been that way for too long. And I don't quite understand it, but that part of the culture of Florida State, the DNA that I always like to talk about,
right?
Something there has to change where you're not just kicking the ball around like 13 or 14-year-olds. Yeah. Like, figure it out, man. Have some confidence when you throw the ball to first or second, or when a ball's hit to your backhand. Like, get in front. And not only that, like, they botched a rundown.
Oh, yeah. They botched a rundown. They miscommunicated on a pop-up that was between home plate and first base and foul territory that should have been caught. On Sunday, like, Carter Smith could have got a double play to get him out of an inning. You know, he fields a grounder cleanly, tags first, but then the throw to second was just horribly offline. I mean, it's all sorts of different ways to fudge things up. They seem to be doing it, but I'm going to be the optimistic guy and say they're getting out of their system now, and they're gonna work out the kinks. They're gonna work.
Okay, all right, I like it. Hey, yeah, man, Tyler Martin's a good story. It's pretty neat that he's playing this well, and he has such an idea up there, man.
Yeah.
And again, I guess that shouldn't be a surprise because of who his dad is, but man, he knows what he's doing. He just knows what he's doing. You watch him on there, and he has an idea.
Yeah.
He's always going to make contact. He's not looking to crush the ball. He's not yanking his head out 1,000 degrees. He knows what he is. He's 140 pounds. He might hit 2 home runs in the next 2 years, maybe, and that's if he just unloads on one and gets it over the screen. But he can. You can use a guy that can hit singles and doubles and walks all the time and gets on base. I mean, his on base percentage is like almost 600.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
He's all throat. Like his headshot, just, it looks like he's got this massive like gullet. So we need to give him a nickname. I feel like we need to give Tyler Martin a real good nickname. And I know some people are like, well, how come you're obsessed with giving people nicknames? Some people need nicknames. I feel like he needs a nickname.
So he's got a big, I'm not looking at the picture, he's got a big throat?
Yeah, it's like a very pronounced larynx, Adam's apple, voice box, whatever you want to call it.
Okay.
Maybe it's just the way he's posing so he can kind of make himself look a little thicker. You know, the old, I'm going to pinch my shoulder blades together and kind of tilt my head back a little bit so I look like I'm a little more fierce than I really am, kind of like a peacock or something. Right. But, yeah, man, it's crazy. And, like, people are already asking Meat about, you know, after, like, Saturday, like the heartbreaker, they lose in extra innings and we get to interview him after the game. And, you know, the student reporters are like, you know, what's it like having your son? You know, is this make it a little bit cooler, at least that your son's out there performing well? And he's like, no, we lost. And then I think Kurt, maybe from the Democrat, was like, well, you know, it's got to be kind of cool, right? And, you know, like, did you talk to your dad about what it's like, you know, to coach your son? Because obviously he went through the situation. He's like, man, I'm his dad for about an hour a day. I don't even know if I'm his dad for that long out of the day. I mean, basically saying that he's coach more than he is dad, and just in terms of the amount of time they spend together. It's crazy how dialed in he is, and it really irks me when I see people like already bashing like this hire, like it's like a bad thing. I mean, it's like, come on, man, we just got out of February. Like, let the man coach. You know, let's not make a regional before we start really panicking and throwing, you know, spears at the guy.
Well, and even that, though, and, you know, there's some fairness and some unfairness there, though. But, you know, you also have to give him a chance to recruit.
Yeah.
With the fully operational staff, all systems go, and see what happens. maybe these errors are a distant memory when he starts, being able to maybe bring in kids that they weren't bringing in the last few years. And even then, they were in the winners bracket in Omaha last year.
That's correct.
So there's some unbelievable moments that this program has, even when they're not good. Last year was not a good baseball team.
Nope.
At all. I can't imagine the Georgia coach still gets much sleep thinking about what in the world happened that weekend. Just an utter embarrassment against the worst Florida State team in 4 decades. They came in there and housed you. So let's see how it plays out all the way through the season, and even then that won't be enough. Yeah. I don't think. But, again, you hope he gets the fielding squared away. But, I'm looking at the stats real quick. They have a .438 on-base percentage. That's awesome. Mm-hmm. Their opponents have a .282 on-base percentage. They've been hit 32 times by pitches. Their opponents have been hit by 6. Now, Florida State is batting .258 as a team, which is not good at all. But their opponents are hitting .187. It is a really good pitching staff. And you're right. I think they're not gonna score runs against good pitching because not many teams do. But their ability to get on base and manufacture a few, coupled with their pitching, should lead to a nice year, unless they commit 5 errors a game. So figure out that part in the middle with the fielding, and I think they have a nice recipe to have a pretty nice season. And I do think he cares about the psychology of the kids. I feel like some of the infielders might need to do a little double dose, and I'm not being dismissive of what would you even call that? Psychotherapy. It matters, man. All that matters. Get these kids some confidence somehow.
Mental strength. Coaches.
Where they're not throwing the ball into left field from first base or throwing it down the line from a catcher. Whatever you have to do, or getting not being able to pull off a rundown. So anyway, I do like what I saw this weekend. I didn't like much of what I saw the first couple weekends, but this weekend against 2 good teams, one very, very good team, you could have won both those games. You didn't. It's not great, but it proved to me that you can compete at that level against their good pitchers. It wasn't like you were facing Texas Tech on a Tuesday. Those are weekend guys, and like I said, they threw their best closers for 70 pitches in one game, and the other one threw 50. Like their 2 best relievers, 2 guys that'll be draft picks here soon enough, combined to throw like 115 pitches in that game on Saturday night. That's crazy. Now, you didn't hit them. You're allowed to hit them. But still, they faced real pitching, and they hung right in there with Texas Tech. They committed 4 errors in that game. They lost the game.
Hey, Corey, let's see if we can do like a speed round here, 3 minutes, 5 minutes maybe. There was a couple questions that we didn't get to from the Renegade Express. We'll do one of those, obviously, before spring football starts on Saturday, and then maybe in between it, we'll just have an interview, Schoffel Sessions, strictly episode, where it's just the remaining interviews with the assistant coaches that we're not able to run today, and for the Renegade Express. Mr. Clutch _1992. A little bit of a funny one. Would you let Brady play quarterback at Florida State behind this offensive line if he had offers from another top-tier Power 5 school?
Let me see what this offensive line looks like. Yeah, last year's offensive line, 0 chance. I love my son. And I don't. I sounded like I don't know who does sound like Krzyzewski. I love my team. I love my son. I don't want to see him hurt. That would be really hard to see that. So probably not. But it's a new day. It's a new year. Let's see what this offensive line looks like before I can answer that.
He had a really tough one as well. How are the regions in the NCAA tournament decided? Why do we keep getting shoved to the West? Well, hopefully we'll go to the South, like Joe Lenardi said. But yeah, it makes it's crazy.
They do an S curve. So the S curve is let's say just for the who's the number? Oh, so Kansas is going to be let's say Kansas is the number 1 overall seed. Mm-hmm. So they go to the Midwest. Yeah. Let's say that Gonzaga is the number 2 overall seed. They will go to the West because they're in the West. Then number 3 would be Baylor. They would go probably to the South because they're closest to the South. I guess technically they're in the South. And then let's say
San Diego State.
San Diego State is number 4. So they're a number 1 seed too. They're the 4 overall seed. Well, they can't go to the West because the West is already taken by Gonzaga. So they'd send them to the East. And now the S curve means now you come back around. And that 5 seed is also going to the East. And then you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
that.
So they're the number 5 seed, and you're coming back down. And then the 8 seed is paired. So the 4 and the 5, the number 4 overall seed and the number 5 overall seed should be paired together.
Yes.
The number 3 and the number 6, the number 2 and the number 7, the number 1, the number 8.
Yeah.
So that's how you do it technically. And it really is supposed to just be by chance. But we'll see once Florida State gets sent out to LA again to play Gonzaga and Michigan, that it's not, that we're just in Groundhog Day. But theoretically, it's supposed to be completely random, and you're not supposed to be sent to the West. Last year, Florida State was a 4, I think.
Yeah.
So they were they were anywhere from like the 13 overall seed to the 16 overall seed. So wherever they lined up with the S curve, coming back around for the 3rd or 4th time, they just happened to be matched up with Gonzaga in the West. That's how it worked.
Sammy Boy 1974 says he loves the show.
That didn't make any sense, did it?
No, it did. I followed the S curve. I've heard about it, but I'd never heard the explanation about it. And yeah, it makes sense, man. Like it's
like a fantasy draft, right?
Yeah. It's like the NHL or the NBA. Like you're seeded 1 through 8. 1 plays 8, 2 plays 7, 3 plays 6, 4 plays 5. And in this, you're talking about 2 seeds or your 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th.
What you're hoping for, again, theoretically, is the number 1 overall seed shouldn't have to play the best number 2 seed.
Correct.
The number 1 overall seed should have to play the worst number 2 seed, at least according to the S curve.
Yeah.
So that's the theory there. That's the thinking there.
Sammy Boy 1974 complimented us, says he has a stack of FSU podcasts that he listens to, and we're always first on the list. But number 2 is Seminole Headlines, Corey. So he does say that. He does wonder where he had a lot of good things to say about the basketball program. They play so hard. They care for each other. They do it all with class. This is a very likable team. He thinks we're going to continue to be overlooked and have a few guys in the honorable mentions again, but whatever. Does wonder where your fear of flying came from, Corey.
I've thought about that a lot. The only thing I can think of is that I think it must coincide with 9/11. Not to get dark, but pre-2001, so the first 26 years of my life, I probably flew
jet set.
I don't know, 100 times.
Jeez.
We would fly to Miami a lot to see my grandmom with my dad. I'd fly to Florida State game. Yeah, probably 100 times. Then somewhere along the way, the turn of the century, 2001, 2002, I just started, anytime I was in a plane, I would be looking down and going, what am I doing up here? This is ridiculous. What are we doing? We're not supposed to be up here. Look at this. This isn't right. And then it became almost like a psychosis of sorts where I was just like, I remember telling Shanna before we took I'll brag, we had a honeymoon in Hawaii.
Yeah.
And before we got on the plane, like the night before, I'm like, I don't want to go because I know we're going to crash. I know it. And she's like, don't be dumb.
Yeah.
And she's like, we can't drive to Hawaii.
Right.
And I go, I got it. But still, I think we're going down. I think we're going down. Yeah. And, it didn't happen. So that was cool. But yeah, I just remember. So that was like 2004, I think, when we got married. So that's when by 2004, I was in full panic mode anytime I got on a flight. Yeah. And then I've probably flown 5 times since then. After the first 25 years of my life, I probably flew 100 times. The last 10 years of my life, I think I've flown 4.
All right, well.
But yeah, I don't know. I guess it was not. That's a long-winded question, the answer that nobody really cares about. But yeah, I think it must have had something to do with 9/11.
Well, you got to conquer it. Brady Clark's going to be starting quarterback for Southern Cal. Those long Pac-12 trips. Can't be driving all of them. He's going to have to fly.
I'll watch those. I'll watch those from my house.
And last one, Jalen Cones, lots of verbiage. I'll cut right to it. Jaden Lars Woodby, defensive back, linebacker. What do you think?
So has he just been a linebacker? essentially.
Since he got here, yeah.
He's played some at safety, right? A bit.
Star. I think they call him the star position.
Yeah. He hasn't. When I've watched him, and it's not fair because he also has been closer to the line of scrimmage, so you haven't gotten to see it. I haven't been like dazzled by speed. I've never looked at him and go, "Wow, that's safety speed."
Flash, yeah.
But he's also not really had a chance to do that either, right? Because he's, you don't get to see guys really bust it and run when they're, 2 yards off the line of scrimmage, and they're playing the star necessarily. I mean, occasionally on a blitz, but I've never really gotten to see him in pass coverage or break on a pass to know if he can do it, if he has the fast twitch to be able to, go and recognize it and break up or intercept a pass. So I'm going to say linebacker just because I've never really seen a lot of safety skills out of him. Right. But then again, I never got a chance to see any safety skills out of him. Yeah. That's how you couch an answer right there.
Boom. Well said.
You can't do it any better than that.
No. I was going to say linebacker. I just think especially coming off a knee injury, probably better playing in tighter, confined spaces, which you'll probably be at linebacker more so than having to play like, I mean, he can't play strong safety because of Hamsa. And that's kind of what Jalen Combs was pointing out. So then, I mean, do you really put him at free safety? But Corey, you said it best. All right, we will uncork an interview here in a moment. I still don't know which one. Corey, I think I'm going to give you the day off, give myself a day off when we do our midweek show. And I think maybe we'll just do a whole Schoffel Session bonanza, just all Ira, interviewing all the coaches. And then we'll do our Renegade Express. But obviously, if anything big happens in the interim, we'll double back because that's what we do, right?
That's exactly what we do, and we take care of our listeners. There's a basketball game Wednesday night, late, Notre Dame. And then, again, I already gave a shout-out to get your tickets and go to Tampa because it is a likable team. It is a really likable team, and Trent Forrest is a really likable kid. I should point out that as tough as that loss was on Saturday for him, because I think he's the one that gave up the bucket. Yeah, he was trying to guard that kid. And that was another thing. He even said it. He's like, look, with 8 seconds left and the kid's just going full speed, a kid like that, it's really hard to stay in front of him, and you can't get too much up on him because you don't want to foul. And he did his best or whatever. But obviously he was very disappointed. He still took the time to talk to me afterwards. I always appreciate that. Devin did too. And they took that loss hard. You could tell. So it'll be interesting to see how they bounce back from that. Because I think at that point they thought we just blew our chance.
Right.
Well, now they get another chance. But even if, you almost don't want them to be like, I don't know. It's like you just want them to just play just because you want to play. Don't worry about winning some regular season title. It would be awesome. It'd be a great accomplishment for Florida State. You're not recognized as the ACC champion.
Right.
That's only the tournament. So you want them to just go play carefree. Let's just go play and not put pressure on themselves to go win something. But anyway, they are a very likable team. This is getting to the point. Very likable team. And Trent Forrest is one of the more likable players I've ever covered. He's also had some huge moments for this program. He might end up being the winningest player in program history. So be there Saturday for his senior day. You got nothing to do. It's 4:30. I know, folks, you guys listening to me, there's 100 of you that are thinking maybe I'll go, maybe I won't go. I got tickets. They're in my drawer, but I might just leave them there like I do sometimes. Go. It's 4:30. You're out by 6:30. You're eating dinner by 7. You're at home by 9. You are, out drinking, whatever you want to do. But be there at 4:30 for Trent Forrest Senior Day and to show appreciation for this team that'll be going for either a 25th or a 26th win. When before the season, some people that really know a lot about sports thought they would be a bubble team. Go appreciate them. Anyway, that's my spiel. Sorry, Aslan.
That's fine. That gave me time to think. It's going to be Chris Marve. Happy belated birthday to the Seminoles linebacker coach. Ira, take it away.
We're here with Chris Marve, linebackers coach at Florida State University, getting ready for spring football coming up here in a few days. Coach, thanks for taking the time to talk to us.
First and foremost, thank you for having me. We're excited to be here and excited about what's to come.
So I wanted to kind of go back to your playing days as a recruit. I went back to your rivals profile, Coach, and it's you were not exactly a 5-star, but being an undersized guy, and I'm sure that was a big part of it. What was that like? You were a productive player in high school, But how difficult was it to get noticed, and how frustrating was it that people, I'm sure in your heart you're thinking, man, I could play anywhere, but kind of being doubted based on measurables?
Well, one thing my mom always taught me was the value of being resilient, regardless of the situation, regardless of your circumstances, or quite honestly what other people think about you. You can only control what you can control, and that was my work ethic. That was my ability to be an elite competitor, my ability to lead and do everything I absolutely could within my power to maximize my opportunities, and regardless of the situation. And so when I applied that to my recruiting process, I had one opportunity. I had one scholarship to a school that was in my state that was, quite frankly, that I wasn't interested in early in my recruiting process. And, it turned out to be a good move for me. And so, when you think about the lessons that you learn as a kid or a younger kid as you mature into an adolescent and teenager, you don't necessarily think about the application, but reflecting on it as an adult, that's exactly what I did.
So did that offer come early in the process or late in the process?
So it came between the summer between my junior and my senior year. It came in June, and that's where we came from there. Yeah.
So at the time you're still thinking, well, bigger schools may come calling, or did you? Why were you not as interested in them right away?
Just the tradition of the program, and the place that I was growing up in Memphis, Tennessee, it wasn't necessarily a large blue chip name that was easily recognized all the time as it related to football. And football was priority number one for me. I had really good grades and I took school seriously, but football was very, very important. So I was interested in other things. But, I had my mind made up at that point in time, what I wanted to do and what I wanted to pursue in college and what I wanted to make of myself. And so, funnily enough, the day that I got the offer, 6 hours later I committed. And so that was my journey. My journey was short and sweet.
Oh, wow. So you didn't hold out looking for other schools?
I sure didn't, no.
When you so you go and I think you redshirt as a freshman, and then you're really productive as a redshirt freshman when you get on the field. Was there kind of a chip on your shoulder because the fact that you're playing against schools that maybe wouldn't have had interest as a recruit?
I think you got to play football with a chip on your shoulder. You're always out in this game, in my opinion, to prove somebody wrong, but more importantly, to prove yourself and the people that believe in you right. And so I think you have to operate that way. If you don't, then in my opinion, you're operating in a state of complacency. And when you're complacent, you can't improve. You can't maximize who you are, your potential, and it's really difficult to continue to ascend. And so for me, I operated that way, and it worked for me when I was a player.
And then playing at Vanderbilt, obviously, I'm guessing a lot of weeks you go into games looking at film and saying, okay, well, some of these guys are going to be bigger and faster and stronger across the board, not necessarily about you, but just as a team, they're probably going to be a little bigger, stronger, faster. How did that shape your guys' preparation?
As a player, just reflecting on the way I looked at things and my view, I never thought about that, and that was never a consideration. Because of the way that I prepared and because of how I view myself and how I operated with that chip on my shoulder, as you just mentioned too, that was never anything that I wanted to think about. That was never anything in my opinion that mattered, right? Now I can't speak to what the coaches talked about when those doors were closed. I don't know how they operated, but for me as a player and for the guys that I was around, that I was close to, it never mattered.
Does your process and the way you were evaluated, does that shape you at all as a recruiter in terms of how much do you focus on measurables and how much you focus on production?
Absolutely. I think at the linebacker position, production is critical, right? It equates to how much you love the game, the type of passion that you have pursuing the football, how physical you are at the point of contact. Can you lead a defense of 10 people around you? Can you make the calls? Can you get everybody adjusted pre-snap? And can you get everybody going post-snap, right? On your side of the ball. So all of that matters, and that's something that the linebacker coach and defensive coordinator who recruited me put an emphasis on. Those are things that I showed on tape and things that I did as a player. And so obviously and naturally, those are things now that I look for, right? And things that I place a premium on or that I find important in addition to other things that I think that are important.
You went to high school in Memphis, but a friend of mine heard you speak, and he mentioned that you moved around a lot as a youngster. How did that, I guess, shape you kind of in terms of just kind of forming who Chris Marve is?
Well, I go back to what I told you about what my mom said. because we had to move, I had to adjust and learn how to adjust really quickly, and meet new people really quickly, and establish relationships really quickly, and authentic ones, right? Not just surface level ones or ones that were shallow, but ones that were real. Because when you're a kid, everything's real. You don't know what's real. You don't know what's fake. You don't know if a person's good or bad unless you're taught that, right? And so what I didn't know at the time is that what that did was prepare me for coaching. Now as an adult, I can look back and say, because of those moves, because I had to live in so many different places, I can meet young men from all around the country now and build a relationship really quickly. I can meet families and relate to them really fast because of how many different places we had to be. And so when you're young, obviously it's not exciting to get up and have to move probably more than you'd like to. But as an adult looking back, I'm thankful that I went through it because, God had a plan for me and had a plan for my future. And because of that, that's where I am now.
And being the new kid in school is not fun when you're a young kid. So did you have to constantly prove yourself also in terms of just with the guys and that kind of thing?
You had to prove yourself then, absolutely. And it comes in the classroom. It's on the football field. And, that may not be the case now, but then it was. And, so that was fun. I like competing.
When you were the oldest of 8 siblings?
Yes, sir.
At what point did you start to feel some responsibility as, I got to take care of some of these kids?
Well, my responsibility was never necessarily to take care of kids. My mom is strong. My stepfather is phenomenal. And they're great role models for all of us, to be quite honest. What I felt was a responsibility to make sure that I led and that I did things the right way because I knew everybody was looking to me. Even now as adults, naturally, subconsciously, I still think that occurs to some degree because we all have different paths. But I still think that occurs, and I want to make sure that I'm setting an example that I'd like to follow. And so I like that. It always keeps me on my toes, and I love the responsibility for and the opportunity, quite honest, to be the oldest.
How close are the siblings?
So I'm the oldest, and I'm my age, and my baby sister, she is a senior in high school right now.
I meant also just how close are you guys as a family? I mean, are you guys talking all the time? Will they come to games? I mean, how close are you guys as adults?
Yeah, so there is a group text message thread on my phone that never stops, and so I'll tell you that much. I'll leave it at that.
Coming up, did you play other sports, or was it football from pretty much day one?
So when I was young, I played a little bit of baseball. I ran track a little bit in middle school and high school, but I figured out as soon as I became a teenager that football was my deal, and I didn't really do anything else besides that after that.
And you mentioned football being your priority. Was that because of where it could take you, or is it because just the love of the sport?
I fell in love with the game. I loved contact. I loved the idea of being able to call plays as a linebacker or get defenses adjusted. I love the strategy component that's required in studying your opponent because so many things can happen on a given play. I love the idea that not one person can take over an entire game. You can have really elite athletes, but it's really hard for one person to take over an entire game in this sport. And so many other, I love the work that's required in the off season. In the winter and the summer, how hard you have to work and prepare in order to improve. I love the camaraderie of the game. I mean, I love this sport. That's why it's my vocation now, and that's why I teach. But I fell in love with it, man.
So as a linebacker, are you seeing things before the plays happen? I'm based on alignment and formation, things like that. Or you already have an idea?
A good one does.
Really?
A good one does. And I think it comes – some of that's natural and feel, but a lot of it is, quite honestly, in film preparation and studying on your own and being a student of the game. And if you can do that, you can play with great anticipation and not have a bunch of wasted movement and be efficient in everything that you're doing and do so in a very fast way. At linebacker, you can play a lot faster than you may naturally be in a 40 or 100-yard dash, but because of anticipation and great footwork, great eyes, and great aggression, you can get to where you want to be.
Coach Norvell was speaking the other day at the analytics conference, and he made a comment about if you're a 4-4 guy but you're running in the wrong direction, you're not of any use. Yeah. What? How much of, I guess, is recruiting linebackers? How much of those things can you learn about a player in terms of instincts and intelligence and those types of things?
Yeah. So that comes in doing your research. One is talking to the young man, getting a feel and a really in-depth look at who he is in your conversations, and him also getting to know who you are, quite honestly. talking to his family and those people around him who he looks to for support and who he follows and listens to in terms of direction, but also really, really talking to his coaches. His coaches are around him every single day. They've usually been around him for multiple years, have seen him grow or regress, and can tell you everything you need to know. And so once you compile all that information, then it's your job to assess and see where they can go from there.
You played for Coach Shoup at Vanderbilt. I was a little bit familiar with him because, obviously he's had a great career, but also Coach Fisher, I think, was trying to hire him away at one point, maybe when he was at Penn State or something along that time. What was it about him that you learned from, or what kind of a coordinator was he, or is he?
Yeah, so Shoup is very much a student of the game. You know, he played, I think, receiver in college and professionally overseas. So he made himself into a defensive coordinator. So what I learned from him is studying the game and how to see things from his vantage point. Taught me a tremendous amount. Worked with him last year, and I played for him as a redshirt senior. And so he's taught me a lot. Very much a mentor for me in this profession, and I've been very thankful to be around him.
And then getting to know Coach Norvell. Obviously, he coached at the school where you grew up, or where you played high school football. How did you first meet him, and what were those experiences?
So I met Coach Norvell in Memphis, at the University of Memphis during one of those mega camps out that I was working, because that was my area, a part of one of my areas. And so we met each other, and initially, from our initial meeting, before I even shook his hand, actually, when he addressed everyone who was there for the camp, what I could tell about him, that he had a great heart, and was a phenomenal man. And I knew that moment, if the opportunity presented itself, that I'd like to be around him and learn and grow from him and work for and with him and building something. It's very evident the type of person that he is, and it's very evident the type of football coach that he is. And so it was a no-brainer for me.
Then this defensive staff, seems there's a lot of diversity in the defensive staff. I mean, guys from different backgrounds. Coach Fuller's from up north, and Coach Woodson's from you and from the south, and Odell's kind of Florida State guy forever, and JP's from Maryland. What is that? Is that just something you're used to in football because you're always coming with guys from different backgrounds, and what does that bring to the equation?
I think it brings a lot of value. You know, I think from the standpoint of just having regional ties and recruiting, or the variation of experience because of the roles or different places that each guy has been, and the I would say the trajectory of their careers. Not necessarily how the school has gotten better, or the institution, or so to speak, has changed, but just the type of young men that they've had the opportunity to be around, and the systems that they've learned that we're able to implement and pull and grow from, and now implement here, right? And so what I think is that it brings a lot of value, both that it's very visible right now, and some that we may not even know about that'll show itself later, that we can use and apply in a way that helps us here at Florida State. And so I think it's been phenomenal. I've learned a tremendous amount already. You know, me, again, like you said, being primarily from the South, Texas, Louisiana, Alabama, and Tennessee, and being in a room with somebody like Coach Papuchis, who's from Maryland, you know, hearing about him, and when he goes home, how many crab cakes he's going to eat, right? And so it's been really good and fruitful, and it helps all of us because we just have a different vantage point.
And then when did you decide coaching might be a future? Was that when you were younger, or when you were in college?
I didn't know until after I graduated from college, and I was a teacher for a couple of years. I taught middle school in Nashville, Tennessee, coached basketball my second year, and I found out really quickly that teaching is something that I'm extremely passionate about, and building young people is something I'm extremely passionate about. And so Coach Mayo is the coach who I was an assistant for. I walked into the gym my second year as a teacher, and I could tell he could use a little bit of support. And I quite honestly, I needed to do something a little bit extra after school, and I wanted to help out the kids, man. And I fell in love with it. The young men that I taught in the classroom responded a little bit differently when you were talking about basketball. And it was at that point I realized, you know, I can have a tremendous impact as a teacher, not just within the confines of the classroom. But I knew for me, like I told you, I got cut from the basketball team, so I knew basketball wasn't the sport for me. I knew I wanted to get back into football, and by the good grace of God, opportunities presented themselves, and here we are today.
And if you weren't coaching, what do you think? Would it just be teaching? Did you have any other aspirations career-wise?
if I wasn't coaching, I don't know what I'd be doing from a specificity of profession. I know I'd be helping people. I'd be teaching in some capacity, and I'd be doing what I feel like is whatever God's purpose would be for me at that point. But coaching is what I'm passionate about. Coaching is what I love to do. You can have such a tremendous impact, and I love it, quite honestly.
Awesome. Thanks for your time, Coach. Appreciate it. Good luck with everything.
Thank you, Aaron. Go Noles.